Hey everybody, it's David. I'm in the process of grading the Module 1 memo exercises, and what I wanted to do is give you some tips on how to make these much more impactful. Some of them were pretty dull, if you ask me. I mean, it's like, if I was an employee, I try and read these as if I'm an employee, and I read them and I go, oh my gosh, that was not worth my time. And so put yourself in the position of your employee and read your memo exercise and say, is that exciting or not? And so I wanted to give you a technique. I talked about this a little bit on your papers, but I wanted to give you something and perhaps a model you could follow regardless of what the memo is going to be about. Now, coming up in a future lesson, you're going to talk about Ken Blanchard's 1 Minute Manager, and some of you may have read that book before. I think it's a great book. Um, but let's operate under the assumption that your employee has a minute, and you've got a minute with them to be able to convince them of something in this email memorandum that you're sending them. Don't waste their time, but be impactful. Give them information. And so let's just walk down through this, and I'm going to give you some ideas on perhaps what you can do in modules 2 through 7 as we go forward. First of all, make sure that your title and the subject here is descriptive, because that's the first thing the employee is going to see is, okay, what's this about? What's David going to be yapping to me about this time? And so make sure that the subject is very, very descriptive. And then provide a brief introduction that just states the purpose of the memo with whatever appropriate background is needed. Not a lot of detail here, but at least provide some sort of introduction for that. Now, you'll notice that I talk about what, how, why, so what, those things. Those are very important. And part of the reason is because I think it gives you a process that you can use on how you can specifically talk to your employees, and they can get used to your communication, which is important, right? And so what's the key reason here for this memo? And honestly, I would be this overt. I would say what? And then make this pop off the page. For example, in the first week, it talked about the vision statement. And some of you put your vision statement in, and I had to hunt for it in the body of your paper. Well, if I had to hunt for it and I knew what I was looking for, can you imagine what an employee would do? They would just glance right over it. And so if there is an important statement to be made, make sure that it pops off the page. You can bold it, you can put it in italics, you can change the font, but it's at the heart of the memo, and it's really why you're writing it. So make sure that pops. The second thing is how. If there's something that's going to be implemented, so for example, if you're changing a process or if you're changing something else, the employees are going to be they're going to be very, very critical, and they're going to go, okay, all right, I understand what they're doing, but when are they going to do it? How is it going to happen over a given period of time? And so you need to tell the employees what to expect and when to expect it. And then why or so what. This is very important, and honestly, I don't think leaders today do a very good job of this. Put yourself in the shoes of the employee and go, why is this important to them? Why should they care? And then tell them that. You could come right out and say, this is an important concept for you because it will, and then you'll fill in the blanks on that. And then finally, employees need to see that you're committed, that you as the leader, the department head, or whatever, that you're committed. So you can share your commitment here. Now, there's one thing that and I'll talk about this in a future lesson. I have a real pet peeve about bosses saying they have an open door policy. Open door policies, to me, are the scariest things in the world, because what that's saying is, I'm not going to come and talk to you. You have to come and talk to me. That's not a servant leader. A servant leader spends time with their people and doesn't expect them to go through that very, very scary door of the boss's office. So for me, many years ago, I wiped that I have an open door policy out of my vocabulary, because honestly, it was one of the most challenging issues to get across to employees, and they would find me at their desks. So if a leader really cares, and they're going to wind up at the desks of their people and not expect their people to come to their desk, right? So sorry about that little pet peeve there at the end. And then finally, just some summary and final emphasis. Now, again, this doesn't have to be very long, but it has to be very clear. So if you want to do that, make sure that you use headings as you go forward. Hopefully this didn't ramble too much. But again, I have a passion about these subjects because you have very few opportunities as a leader to communicate to your employees. And when you do so, you need to make sure that you're very, very clear. Okay? If you have any questions about this, give me a call. Thanks.